Okay, so we are all set. Chaitanya Prabhu, whenever you're ready, we can start.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Um, this is Group 3 presenting the Nectar of Instructions, Text 2 and Text 3. So, in Text 1, we have understood that Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. So, a person who is able to control all the urges um, of the tongue, belly, genitals, and all others can make disciples globally or across the world. So, in continuation to it, Nectar of Instruction talks about text 2 and 3 as more like what are the do's and what are the don'ts that you should be following to succeed in the Krishna consciousness. Oh God. So the text 2. Sorry, let me minimize this. Text 2, it says Atyahara Prayasascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Janasangasya Laulyamcha Sharbhir Bhaktir Vinashyati. So text 2 talks about all those things that one should avoid, which is detrimental to Krishna consciousness or which obstruct the progress of Krishna consciousness. So the text description says, or the purport says, the translation says, is one's devotional service is spoiled when it becomes too entangled in in one of the six or one or all the six activities. One, eating more than necessary or collecting more than funds than are required. Second, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Third, talking about unnecessary things or mundane object matters. Fourth, participating in scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of the following them, not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations for the scripture of the scriptures, working independently or whimsically. And the fifth is associating with worldly mundane persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And sixth, being greedy for mundane achievements. As we see here, eating more than what you need, and gossiping and accumulating and hankering for more wealth and taking association, not the right association. All these things we should be avoiding, uh, which are uh, which are obstruction or which are a kind of a drawback to Krishna consciousness. So, um, uh, so here it is explained that living entities belong to Bahiranga Shakti or external potency. Since they are external potency, they are obliged to work and remain under the control of internal or external potency. So the living souls which are more controlled by internal potency is more like Yashoda Mata and many other infallible souls. Whereas people who are under the control of external potency are people in general, like most of us. One who is under the control of internal potency is called as Mahatma, and naturally, one who's cripple-minded and not is indulged in sense gratification and is under the control of external potency. Uh, it could be sense pleasure of self, or it could be sense pleasure of the for the family or the country fellow men and so on. It could be different levels, but the concept is still there that he is looking for sense gratification. So and crippled minded people are termed as duratma here, and under the control of external potency of the Lord, and external potency of the Lord is called as Mahamaya. Since Duratmas are under the control of Mahamaya, have to endure the perils of material world. What are the perils of the material world? We all know, that is birth, death, old age, and disease. So the first thing that we have to avoid is Atyahara Prayasa. What does Atyahara Prayasa means? It's over endeavoring and over accumulating. So it's not about just whenever we say atyahara, it's more like people think in the terms of overeating, but it's not just overeating, but even over accumulating things is also comes under atyahara. So Krishna provides every necessity for every living being, and we don't have to over endeavor. In some places, Prabhupada also mentions who feeds tons and tons of grass or things for elephant in the wild, right? So Krishna provides everything to everyone that is needed for them, for their sustenance. But human beings, being higher intelligence, they can cultivate Krishna consciousness, but they are more busy in accumulating wealth, discover more in avenues to sense gratification, and because of this mentality of the human beings, what happens is people start. You can start seeing a lot of advancement in the factories and slaughterhouse and brothel houses and liquor shops, right? And human mentality is meant for emancipation and self-realization, and not for material prosperity. uh, Many of them say, we follow religion. There are a lot of instructions, but what is a true religion? We need to know that. Why? What is a true religion? It is a true religion is one that satisfies the bare necessities of a material existence and helps in aiding or cultivating the Krishna consciousness activities. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in Anuvritti commentary that too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers fall in the same category of Atyahara. So as I said, when we say Atyahara, we visualize, I know I've put a picture of person overeating, but it's not just about food. It's about anything over accumulating, which is not in relation to Krishna consciousness, is called as Satyahara. Then the second thing that comes up is a Prajalpa. It is actually compared to the croaking of the toad. And if you notice that most of the times this croaking of the toad actually is detrimental to the toad itself. Because of that, the snakes or other animals, they get to know that there is an animal that can be eaten. So it is always gets into trouble. Similarly, if we talk if we talk nonsense, if we talk anything that is not relevant to us, it comes and bites us at some point in time. So, uh, if you don't do Prajalpa, what should you do? You should talk about Krishna consciousness. That is what we need to talk about. People are busy in doing crossword puzzles, reading newspapers, reading, talking and discussing about what are the current affairs in the world and all that stuff. All that is Prajalpa. And one thing I have personally experienced is if we had to know things in life, we will get to know no matter how. Right? People are also busy playing cards, fishing, watching televisions, and so on. So intelligent people use their uh, consciousness and consciousness to propagate Krishna consciousness, and also you should never indulge in prajalpa. Janasangasya, so association. Association is very key for Krishna consciousness. But Janasangasya here refers to more of uh, non-devotee association. When I say non-devotee, it could be anything. People who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, or they are interested in materialistic things, going to clubs, exchange talking about stock exchanges, and talking in chambers of commerce and various other activities. It's always said, tell me about your friend and I'll tell about you. That is what the association means, right? The product of association, what you are. And it is imperative to be in devotee association. Then Niyamagraha. What is it? What does a Niyamagraha? Accepting some scriptural rules and regulations for immediate benefit, and utilitarian advocate is called Niyamagraha. So there might be a little bit confusion as over here, like because Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha, there are a slight difference. One is following the scriptural rules and regulations, and one is following the scriptural rules and regulations for the benefit of Krishna consciousness. So, as we all know, niyama means rules, and you know, by addition of the two words niyama graha, it says that the a twofold meaning that is understood according to the particular combination of the words. The interesting those interested in Krishna consciousness should not be eager in accepting the rules and regulations just for their economic advancement. They should accepting the scriptural rules and regulations for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. That is the key point here. Avoid the associations of Mayavadis. In continuation, it is also said here that devotees should avoid association of Mayavadis, blasphemy. Those are the Mayavadis who blaspheme Vaishnavas, and Bhakti Kamis, who are interested in material happiness. We should avoid their association. Avoid the association of Mukti Kamis, which are desiring of the liberation by merging into the existence of Brahman, and avoid association with siddhikamis also, to those who desire perfection of mystic yoga practices. All these people are termed as atyaharas, because these people have an innate quality of hankering for more, whether it is knowledge or siddhis or anything. So Laulya is, what is Laulya? Desire to expand the mind in perfection of mystic yogas and to merge into the existing of Brahman and to attain whimsical material prosperities. All are included within the category of greed. Basically, Laulya is translated as greed. All attempts to acquire such material benefits, so-called spiritual advancements, are impediments to the path of Krishna consciousness. So what devotees do? One who claims to be devotee should avoid all these stated behaviors as part of the text 2. Moving on to text 3. Utsaha nischayat dhairyat tattat karma pravartanat sangatyaga sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidyati. So we spoke about all this time what we should not do so that we can progress our Krishna consciousness. Now here it says what you should do to progress in Krishna consciousness. There are 6 principles favorable to the Krishna consciousness or execution of pure devotional service. One is being enthusiastic. Second, endure with confidence. Third, being patient. Fourth, being acting according to the regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, etc., hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Fifth, abandoning the association of non-devotees. Sixth, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure complete success of pure devotional service. So devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. So many a times people might think like devotionals are not devotees, but most of the outsiders, they think devotional service is just sitting idle and doing meditation and so on and so forth. But that's not true. So that's where Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he explains that Anya Vilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanamritam Anukulyena Krishna Anushīlanam Bhakti Uttama. So, Uttama Bhakti or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, involves rendering the devotional service in the way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motives or devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal jnana, or all other selfish desires. Right. So, with that as a background, Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. It's an activity that should be performed in favor of Krishna. So cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idle, which is what I said in meditation or a pseudo yoga teaching, yogis teaching. But devotional service, however, is not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages in meaningful activities, as Sri Prahlad Maharaja recommends, Shravanam Kirtanam, which I've translated, which I just mentioned here in English terms. Hearing the name of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting his glories, remembering the Lord, serving the Lord's feet, worshipping the deity, offering obeisances unto the Lord, acting as a Lord's servant, making friends with the Lord, surrendering oneself fully onto the lotus feet of the Lord. So the first thing that comes up, so right now what we have understood is devotional service means favorable activities. How should we perform the favorable activities? That is what is we'll be going through right now. So Utsahan, what is Utsahan? One should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead. If very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity. If you notice, most of the scientists or doctors and who are doing doctorate, they are very enthusiastic. They want to find something. So that enthusiasm is needed no matter which area it is. And specifically, if it is Krishna consciousness, one should be very enthusiastic. We should always keep thinking, okay, what next? What next? What can I do more? What can I do to serve Guru and Krishna? How do I, please Krishna? How do I please Guru? That should be one's motive. So in all phases, one has to perform the devotional activities under the direction of spiritual master. As I mentioned, the key point here is under the direction of the spiritual master. Only then bhakti can be perfected. Nishchaya dhairya. So the next thing is uh, now that we have enthusiasm, the next thing that is needed is endeavor with confidence. So one has to be like very confident when we are distributing works or distributing prasadam. We should not hesitate. That is what is being talked about here. So Prabhupada stated so Prabhupada started single-handedly with no response in the beginning, right? We all know how Prabhupada, when you read Leelamrita, we all understand how difficult it was for him to start the Krishna conscious movement. But he never gave up. He was always confident, and he has put all his efforts in propagating Krishna consciousness. So one should not be impatient as well in discharging the devotional service, but should take the instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. That's what we have understood from Prabhupada, right? So Prabhupada always depended on his spiritual master's instructions and complete faith and full confidence. He performed all his activities. So the successful execution of Krishna conscious activities required both patience and confidence. Tatat tatat karma pravartana. So what does it mean? One must strictly follow the rules, regulative principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. In addition to the four prohibitions, yama, there are positive regulative principles, niyama, such as the daily chanting of the 16 rounds on the Japamala beads and etc. Other things. So neglect of the regulative principles will destroy the devotional service. And the four basic regulative principles forbidding illicit sex, meditating, gambling, and intoxication. A devotee must be very enthusiastic about following these principles. Sangatyaga satovritte. We spoke about we need to have devotee association. So we are talking over what we are talking about here is in order to be successful in devotional service, one must give up the association of undesirable people. Who are these? These includes karmis, jnanis, yogis, and other non-devotees. So Narottam Das Thakura has therefore recommended Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakti Sane Vasa. One has to live in the company of pure devotees and execute the regulative principles laid down by previous acharyas, the six Goswamis. I'm not going through the names as we are running out of time. If one lives in the association of these devotees, there is a little chance of associating with uh, uh, if one of if one lives in the association of the devotees, then there is a very little chance that he'll be associating with non-devotees. So what is the conclusion? Avoid the activities that are detrimental to bhakti and perform the activities with confidence, with vigor, that propagate bhakti under the guidance of able and bona fide spiritual master. Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Chaitanya Das Prabhu. Very nice presentation, compact and informative also. I also like the last picture that you had, the Sankirtan. I think it was a Radha Damodar Sankirtan party there. I could see Tamal Krish Maharaj.
Yes,
picture.
I saw all the Prabhupada's disciples, so I just picked up.
Nice picture. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, can go to the next group.
Yeah. Group 4.
Hi, yeah, I'm gonna present for group 4. I'm sorry, I'm kind of running into difficulties because I'm on a new computer here, so just give me 1 second.
Yeah, your screen is visible, Mataji, and you, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's do this. Okay. So we just heard about the importance, well, we heard a lot of things, but we heard about the importance of sadhusanga, and text 4 to 5 really goes into it on how it should be conducted for the full benefits. In the association of devotees, 6 kinds of exchanges should be performed. And we're going to learn more about that and how it nourishes bhakti. And we're also going to learn about the spiritual benefits of reciprocation and the associations to avoid, to cultivate, and why. The 3 types of devotees and how to honor them, and how diksha, shraddha, and chanting elevates one to the next stage of devotion. Okay, so text 4 goes into the 6 types of exchanges, good and bad company, and practical applications within ISKCON. So the 6 types of loving exchanges are dadati, or giving charity to the devotees, pratigrinati, or accepting gifts from devotees, guhyam akyati, or revealing one's mind in confidence, prichati, inquiring confidentially about devotional service, bhunte, honoring prasadam given by the devotees, and bhojayate, offering prasada to the devotees. So the dadati principle. Giving charity to the devotees can be interpreted in a few ways. As devotees, we know we must complete our daily japa, but actually we aren't the only ones benefiting when we're chanting. Other people and even animals, insects, and plants nearby who hear the sound vibrations of the holy name become purified. Therefore, a sublime way to fulfill the dadati principle is to distribute the holy name. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of how Lord Chaitanya performed Sankirtan in a Jharkhand forest, and all the animals began dancing and chanting. But because we're not highly elevated, it's generally better to preach to human beings than a tiger. Other ways to give charity is quite literally to give charity. Srila Rupa Goswami sets this example. At least 50% of one's earnings should be used in the service of the Lord and the devotees. Another 25% to relatives, and 25% for personal emergencies. That's the ideal he set when he retired. Next principle is the pratigrinati. So this is the reciprocation. Dadati is giving charity, and pratigrinati is accepting it. One should accept whatever a devotee gives, since any stable relationship, even in ordinary society, is based on reciprocation, on give and take. One can even accept gifts from well-wishers. For instance, generous people who are sympathetic to the movement often donate to our ISKCON, and in return, we give them scripture and welcome them into our society. However, there are groups of people that we shouldn't have intimate dealings with, and we can explore it more in detail later. The next principle is Guhyam Akyati Prichati. This is opening one's mind to the devotees and also inquiring from them about the confidential service of the Lord. This relationship can be nicely seen when an experienced devotee explains and teaches, and an inexperienced devotee listens and learns. When the holy name of the Lord is distributed through the Dadati principle, we should accept it but also inquire more about Krishna consciousness and open the mind to understand the situation of the material world. Sometimes life members and other well-wishers of ISKCON, when welcomed into our society, would inquire more about Krishna consciousness and how to perform devotional activities. This is how their spiritual journey actually can begin and how the movement spreads. Bhungte Bhojate Chaiva. Bhungte is honoring prasadam given by the devotees, and Bhojate is in return giving prasadam to the devotees. To really take advantage of this exchange, we should ideally invite pure devotees into our home and feed them prasadam and also serve them in all respects. Serving the Vaishnavas is always pleasing to Krishna. This principle is really nice because the general public especially benefits. Prasadam is the Lord's mercy and very purifying, so even someone who has no taste for spirituality can still appreciate mercy in the form of food. The spiritual benefits of reciprocation. It can, by fulfilling these 6 different kinds of exchanges with the devotees, it can actually awaken dormant Krishna consciousness, even in an ordinary man. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 62 says, Sangat Sanjayate Kama. When one's desires and ambitions develop according to the company one keeps. So if you associate with devotees, you're going to get their qualities. And if you associate with materialists, which we'll talk about more later, you're going to get their qualities too. And actually, to facilitate these different kinds of exchanges, that's why ISKCON was established in the first place. So associations to avoid. The previous presentation also brushed on this, but the reason why we avoid the impersonalist Mayavadas and the other atheists is because they're too inimical to God to ever accept our teachings. It's a waste of time to spend time arguing with them. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a snake, a venomous snake, and explaining Krishna consciousness to them is like giving milk and honey to a snake. This doesn't make the snake docile, it just makes them more venomous. And becoming intimate with them in our dealings, it can actually pollute our own consciousness. Lord Chaitanya also says that by eating food prepared by worldly people, one's mind becomes wicked. So that's also another way that we have to avoid the impersonalists and the Mayavadas and the atheists. We can't even take food from them. That's why devotees only accept food from other devotees, prasadam. And not just the impersonalists and the atheists, but Lord Chaitanya also forbids us from associating with ordinary people who are too much addicted to material sense gratification. This also relates to the Sangat Sanjayate Kama verse. So it's implied that we can adopt their materialistic habits through intimate exchanges. Now we're going to text 5, and this goes into the different types of Vaishnavas, and how to approach and serve them accordingly, and how the first-class devotee can be identified. So there are 3 different kinds of Vaishnavas, and all should be respected. The Kanista Adhikari, or the neophyte devotee, the Madhyam Adhikari, or the intermediate or midway devotee, and the Uttama Adhikari, or the highest or first-class devotee. So the Kanista Adhikari, they're the ones that receive the Harinam initiation, and they're trying to chant the holy names. But Lord Chaitanya also says that anyone who likes to chant the holy names and chant it by practice should still be acknowledged as a type of devotee. It's the lowest stage of devotional service, and these types of devotees are only interested in worshiping the deity in the temple, and they generally don't know how to behave with other devotees or people. They should be respected within the mind. Neophytes, especially those who are initiated and they follow the orders of the spiritual master, should be respected as bona fide Vaishnava. A Kanista Adhikari, although very respectable, we should not remain in the stage of Kanista Adhikari, but try to elevate to Madhyam Adhikari. And a Kanista Adhikari can be elevated to Uttama Adhikari by gradually following the processes such as daily sadhana and japa. Next is the Madhyam Adhikari. So these devotees receive Diksha and they're fully engaged in devotional service. They're considered the intermediate or the midway stage in devotional service. They worship the Lord as the highest object of love, similar to the Kanista Adhikari, but the difference is that they make friends with the devotees and they're merciful to the ignorant and they avoid envious people. They have firm faith in Mahamantra and they're undeterred in devotional service, but the difference between them and Uttama Adhikaris is that they're not fully knowledgeable in Shastra. They're also called Shraddhavan or staunchly faithful person, and they're eligible for further advancements. The Uttama Adhikari, these are the first-class devotees. They're very advanced in devotional service. They're not interested in blaspheming others. They're completely clean in heart, and they've attained unalloyed Krishna consciousness. They very seriously engage in devotional service and strictly follow the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed rounds, and especially this, always thinking of how to expand the movement. They're always thinking of Krishna and have no interest in things apart from Krishna. Their only business in this material world is to spread the movement all over the world. One way to recognize an Uttama Adhikari in a practical sense is that they're able to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. An Uttama Adhikari should be accepted as a spiritual master, and the neophyte devotee should accept an Uttama Adhikari as their spiritual master. They're called a Mahabhagavat and should be served, and their company should be sought out. But they must also never be imitated, or one can become degraded. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is that loving exchanges is the lifeblood of devotional life. By avoiding atheistic, materialistic, and Mayavada association and keeping the association of devotees, one can be quickly elevated. And knowing the differences between the types of Vaishnavas allow us to properly honor them accordingly and take full advantage of the rare presence of Mahabhagavatas. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dr. Mataji. I like your aesthetics. I think the PowerPoints were very nice and pleasing, and you did an excellent job covering all the main points and summarizing them. So thank you and the group for that.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
We have about 20 minutes. Actually, we are well within the time. Is there any questions or comments to the presenters or to me in terms of what has been spoken so far, either in this set of lectures or the previous lectures? We can talk about it. Yeah. Yes, Rupratnath.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Alarka Mataji. The snake example, Mataji, that you were taking, not to feed them, it's not recommended. Is that inferring that bhakti is not for all?
I wouldn't say it's that Bhakti isn't for all. Really, actually, Bhakti is for every human being. It's just that the nature of the material nature, condition nature of certain people is that they just won't take to it. They'll be problematic. They'll actually end up and concoct arguments after arguments against theism. So it just ends up in waste time. And as devotees, we don't like to waste time. So that's why we generally, as a principle, we avoid associating or arguing with them.
Thank you, Mataji. Very sweet answer.
Thank you. Rajeshwari Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Bhakti. Hare Krishna, everyone. Wonderful presentation about the Uttama Adhikaris and how you should give respect to each devotees and everything. So I have this question. So what if there are so many Jagat Gurus and so many Guru Parampara, other religions also, not religion, I won't say, other gurus and everything. So what if, someone comes to me and says that, oh, I don't believe in Srila Prabhupada, you are into Krishna consciousness, and how do you exactly, believe, Uttamadhikari, right? He's Uttamadhikari, he's pure devotee, he's come here to, spread Krishna consciousness. If someone comes to me and says, no, your guru is not big guru, my guru is great. And they have some random guru, I don't want to name any man in the session. So they'll say, no, can you prove? Right? You get that, I don't know, I feel I get some kind of anger inside the mind. You feel like talking, how can you say that, an argument and everything. How do you avoid, or is it good to avoid such kind of people? I won't say they're not into ISKCON. That's all I want to say. I won't say they're not into Krishna consciousness or materialistic people. So how do you take this, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Excellent question. Alarka, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's actually a really practical question. There are a lot of devotees from different sampradayas, and they'll say, oh, your sampradaya is this and that, your guru is this and that. In one sense, I personally, I would still kind of respect that person just as a Vaishnava in my mind. But my habit is that I would defend my guru, especially if they're really, really offensive. If it's more like, kind of like an inquiry, then I would explain. But if they're really blasphemous, then personally, I either try to argue my guru's case, like what Srila Prabhupada has done, what my Guru Maharaj has done. But if they're not taking no for an answer,
don't we feel in this sense, are we kind of doing sin, avoiding them, or I'm just confused.
Yeah, I know.
And defending is also you're going into that argument mode, right?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. I think there was a pastime about this too. Was it Jiva Goswami? I forgot the name of this one big scholar. They're like, oh, you're
that's Jiva Goswami only. That's correct. You are right. And he goes, he blasphemes one of some Bhagavatam sulok or something. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls him and he says, no, you are not supposed to do that. Don't feel proud about it.
I think it was Rupa Goswami. Was it Rupa Goswami?
No, it was Jiva Goswami, not Rupa Goswami.
Not Rupa Goswami. Okay, I'm mixing up names, but his Guru Maharaj, told him,
Yes.
Yeah. So in that, that's a tricky situation. On one hand, you're not supposed to argue, but I might actually need. I have that question too. What to do?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Actually, you shared good thoughts, both of you. I want to see if anybody else has any thoughts on this. It's a very practical question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, sorry. I would actually go into the details of about what Uttama Adhikari is and all the qualities of him, and let them see by knowledge how our movement is sanctified, and let them make the judgment themselves. If you don't give people knowledge, they will go around the same thing over and over. They can teach someone and they can get enlightened. So I'm going to give them all the qualities, what makes Srila Prabhupada Uttama Adhikari. And they themselves will introspect and be like, yeah, that guru don't do that, that guru, oh, they don't control anger, they don't do that, they don't do that. And they themselves, that's how I'm going to do it.
Thank you, Shubhama. Chaitanya Das Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, what I've read it. I don't remember which scripture I read it, but it says that you cut the tongue. Somebody's blaspheming the pure devotees. That's number one. Number two is it. To me, it depends on what is that relationship with that person is. If a relationship exists with that person and a very deep relationship exists, there's a different way to handle versus if there is no relationship, you follow that rule of cutting the tongue. If not, at least go away from that place because you don't want to hear somebody blaspheming the guru. And that too in the disciplic succession who was and Srila Prabhupada's disciples who have been in Krishna consciousness with all their efforts and sacrificing so many things. So that's what I would take. Depends on the relationship that you have with that person.
Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. Pyali, did you have your hands up?
Yes, Prabhu, I did. Thank you, Prabhu. What I have learned in these situations, and it happens pretty often, is before it can escalate in any direction, just saying I'm happy where I am in my spiritual path, and very satisfied where I am, helps in cutting off the argument, nip it in the bud kind of thing. And this, I kind of learned it from another Mormon preacher, actually, because they do home-to-home preaching. And, many times it would be, I always opened the door for them. And it was kind of very difficult to say that, hey, I'm happy with where I am, or I did not know how to handle that. Then another friend had said, why don't you just tell them that you're happy with where you are in your stage of life, in the spiritual movement you're in? And that has worked beautifully.
Very good.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I don't know, this answer really feels, I'll leave it to Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Good. So good question, Mataji. I think you got finally a fairly representative repertoire of answers. Chaitanya Das Prabhu, like you mentioned, that depending on the mood of the person and your relationship with the person, you may approach it differently. The person is said to blaspheme. It's better to walk away, because the more you argue with the person, the more the person will blaspheme and the person's offenses will increase. So best to walk away. If the person is challenging you, then it's just to say, this is my belief. I was watching there's this person in London, and he goes around doing public debates on vegetarianism. So he kind of just walks up to people and then says that, do you eat meat? And the person says yes. And then he says, if I'm able to convince you that eating meat is a bad thing, will you give up eating meat? Some people say no. And then he says, okay, fine. Hare Krishna. Some people say, well, we're open to it. And then he invests some time and, he tries to convince them, right? So it depends on the mood of the other person. The person is interested to listen or not. And if the situation becomes where you're being forced to become a part of that offensive relationship, and then it's safest to even though like it is said that one should either cut the tongue of the other person or give up his own life. It's a little drastic, but at least one can just walk away from the situation, not be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Nice question. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, go ahead, Monica.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So my question is on the same context, but part of my family follows Ram Sharanam, and that also is very good. They do Ram chanting and they do it very sincerely. But and I grew up getting, when I was very little, I got Diksha, but I never followed through. My grandmother made me take Diksha, and I took it. So they follow a bona fide path too, but I'm into ISKCON. So sometimes it just comes up, they say, oh, well, you guys don't drink tea, you have so many rules. So in some situations, and I understand that and I respect that, but how do I react to that? Because I respect them. They follow a bona fide path too. So how do I react to something like that without offending anybody?
Thank you, Mataji. And I think you framed your question very nicely also, because it kind of contains the mood of devotee, that you're respecting their path, and built into this is you're expecting them to respect your path. So so you follow the path of chanting Lord's Ram name, bona fide path, all glories to you. I follow the path of chanting Krishna's name, also a bona fide path. So just like I'm doing giving you deference, I expect the same reciprocation. Prabhupada, I may have given this example earlier, but it kind of describes the situation nicely. The Prabhupada mentions that in this world there are so many beautiful women, but for a man there is one woman, right? And that's his wife. That does not mean that he goes around saying all the other women are ugly and bad and only my wife is good. But it also does not mean that he goes around running after every other woman saying, "Can you be my wife?" So there is this sense that because of our prior affinity, because of our current situation, we have developed a certain affinity to a path. That's our path, right? And I would expect you to respect my path, just like I am respecting your path. And I remember that we were once doing in this book distribution at Rath Yatra time, and Washington Mall, and you've been in the mall, so you see that it also attracts a lot of these very strong Christian preachers. And one of them once came to the tent we were at, and he said that you prove to me that Krishna is God. Your Krishna is God. And for a minute, I was like, I don't know how to respond. And there was another more senior devotee next to me. He said, I don't have to prove anything to you. I just have to prove it to myself. That is sufficient. And that completely changed the whole energy of the situation. Because I was thinking, okay, should I start quoting from Bhagavad Gita or Etesham Sakala Pumsha? And I'm like, what will he understand out of it? And if I say, he'll just make more fun. But he could understand the person was not in the mood to receive any instructions. So he simply said, this is what it is, and that actually completely diffused the situation.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That was such a good answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Chaitanya Prabhu?
I was under the impression we have only 4 bona fide sampradayas. Are there, what Mataji was talking about is one of them, or is it totally different one?
I don't know if it's like out of those sampradayas, but it's Lord Ram. So in Delhi, a lot of people worship Lord Ram. They read Ramayana, Sundarkand, and everything, and they just have Ram's name written, and they keep chanting Ram, and it's very popular in the north, Prabhu. It is not out of the 4 sampradaya, Rudra, and it's not out of the 4, but it's Lord Ram, and they do Janmashtami. Basically, it's the same, but it's slightly different. So
yeah, and if you look at it in a broader context, Chaitanya Prabhu, that we have 4 bona fide Vaishnava sampradayas.
Yeah.
So there are 4 bona fide Vaishnava sampradayas, but there are people who are pursuing their path in different ways. It doesn't make it non-bona fide. So if so, what is, at least for me, this is, I'm speaking completely from a personal level, that what is my biggest problem with Christianity? That they say that Jesus is the only path. Right? If you follow any other path, it always leads to hell. There's no two ways around it. When I was working in a job in Chicago, Chicago is Midwest, not the Bible Belt, but close to it. And one of my friend's mother, she said, are you a Hindu? I said, yeah, I'm a Hindu. And I was a lot younger. I was in my 20s at the time. And she said, you're going to hell. And I said, why is that? Because you haven't surrendered to Christ. And she was pretty sincere about it. She was completely convinced that was going to happen. Vedic is the Vedic philosophy is not like that. Right? So the exclusivity to the access to the Supreme Lord is a process of bhakti. The process of bhakti is offered through this process of Vaishnava sampradayas. There are other processes that may lead directly or indirectly to that.
The reason why I asked Prabhu is like I come across a lot of people while book distribution who are like ardent follower of Ram, and they do all the chanting of the Lord Ram's name and all that. So is it the same test? I know they could be going to Ayodhya in the spiritual world, but my understanding was if there is no disciplic succession, if there is no connection to the disciplic succession, then the probabilities of they going to the spiritual world, I don't know what it is, because I can take my own example. Like my mother, she chants 32 rounds, but no association, no connection to the disciplic succession. She chants 32 rounds. She reads Bhagavatam. She reads Bhagavad Gita, but no association, no connection to the disciplic succession. So for those kind of people, I don't know what's in store for them in the future. So that's where my question is coming from.
I think you're commingling two different situations. The first is you're absolutely right that the question that needs to be asked is there a connection to a disciplic succession? Right? That's the question that needs to be asked. That right after Mahaprabhu left, there were so many asampradayas that came up. Right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he catalogs in the book that they were very shortly, within a few years after he left the planet, they were like about maybe 30, 36 Papa Sampradayas that came in. They were all chanting Krishna's name. Some of them were chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Radhe Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Some of them were chanting Gaura Krishna, Radhe Sham. Now, all Krishna's name, but where is that mantra coming from? That's where your point is relevant. That is it coming from an acharya? Is the acharya connected to Krishna directly and indirectly? Right. That's when Prabhupada was once in Paris, and he was in the temple in the second floor, and there was ecstatic kirtan going on there, and a person who was singing, powerful singer, and he had kind of built up some responsive chant. I don't know the exact words, but it was like, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, right? And Prabhupada, he called his disciples and said, stop this right away. And then Prabhupada commented that I have not even left the planet, and these people are already destroying the movement. So he was so heavy on that. So the mood of being connected to a sampradaya is in terms of following the instructions of the sampradaya, right? That is very, very important. So, case in point is that, I personally don't know much about, people who chant Lord Ram's name, but the question is that where are they getting it from?
Yeah.
Right? Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, right? is there scriptural references to it? Is there a disciplic succession that supports it? Is there a body of knowledgeable people in this area? Or that's a question. Not so much that will chanting Lord Rams take you. Yes,
Yeah,
it could.
certainly.
May it could not.
Yeah, I don't doubt the chanting of the Lord Ram's name, but it's only that what I have read and understood and I've been practicing is a flow of mercy. The flow of mercy is
Yeah.
important, and that happens only through the 4 sampradayas where there is a disciplic succession.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. I just wanted to clarify that understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Good. Thank you. Kelly and
Yes, Prabhu, I had a question, but we are running out of time. Is it okay to ask?
yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, I mean, it's a general observation that among the devotees, among many of the Hindus and everyone around, I noticed that there is a tendency to be blasphemous towards other religious groups. And how do you tackle that? How would you tackle that? What is your suggestion to tackle that? Because
Thank
I
you.
remember there was one place where when some interviewer had asked Srila Prabhupada, and he said, "Do not try to get me to say negative things about another religion." And but how? And it's becoming more and more prevalent, I feel, because of divisiveness that's going on more and more. So I just wanted to get your humble opinion about what's a good way to not want to be in that situation, like walk off, not respond.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Wonderful question. So I was once in an interfaith and Vaishnav Christian dialogue, and same points, very similar points was discussed, and the person who actually responded to it was a Christian priest. So he said, in we call this the my dad can beat up your dad mentality. That my God is bigger than your God, my God can beat up your God. So he said, if you look at it from that perspective, when two kids are saying my dad can beat up your dad, then the understanding is that both of them are immature. Right. So he said this mentality is very much anchored in people who, because of lack of knowledge, so their adherence to their faith is not a reflection of the depth of their bhakti. It's a reflection of the lack of understanding. If you do things without understanding, they become ritualistic and superstitions, and people develop understanding for that. We don't have control on others, but ourselves we can control in this way. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote an essay saying that he wrote that I adore my Lord Krishna, who comes in so many forms to attract so many souls back to him. And then later on, he talks about that how I have so much respect for my Lord Jesus Christ, that he went to such great lengths to develop love of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada was very, very respectful to Jesus Christ. Right? He would almost always address him as Lord Jesus and Jesus Christ, and he would use that as a preaching platform, saying that if you have faith in Lord Jesus, then you should follow what he says. And thou shalt not kill, you should follow. Now, of course, it's not Lord Jesus who said that. The commandments preceded him, but he endorsed them. Right? So he said you should follow them. That's from a preaching platform. Maybe we are not at the level of trying to preach to other religions, but when we have this situation where somebody comes to you and says that my religion is better than your religion, then the first take that you have is that this is coming from a platform of immaturity. So how do you deal with immature persons? Right? So it's no longer, the debate is no longer about what he says, but about who the person is. And if an immature person comes and says to you for something, you're not going to take it seriously. You're going to say, okay, if that makes you happy, so be it. You know, and or something in that. Okay, so we'll take one last question and then end for the day. Shri Pratma, please go ahead. You're on mute, Mataji.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I can.
Yes. I think bona fide. Actually, I always think about the four bona fide is actually bona fide. The word to me, what makes sense is if we can trace it back from the beginning. So it's just the just the word makes sense to it. That's just what I want to say.
Thank you.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
good point. Okay. Apologies for going over time, but wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for all who contributed. We'll end over here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnavind ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanand.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare